This means in, like they would say, defense, right? So in certain levels of defense, it's like when certain things are trying to press into the field, when they hit that wall of resin, that pleasing smell, they can't enter into the space. It is literally like a light vibration, and they just like, I'm gonna wait till it smells like dog shit till I go over there. And this is kind of thing. Or if you leave it neutral, though, this is another thing, though. If you leave it neutral, you'll be surprised, like different chemicals, like basically different kind of smells that they love and they feed on, right? And I don't want to make it like there's a whole realm of entities, even though there is. I'm just saying like does attract like. So then when you start feeling like, oh man, this is bullshit, then something will slip in the ear like, yep, it's all bullshit. Meaning that then you get all these energies that they basically resonate, that they're losers. You see what I mean? We even trying to teach them how to win, but the reality is that they're already done. So that's the crab in the bucket thing.
The following clip is exclusive content from the university. Access over 300 videos and 26 courses with advanced metaphysics on demand. Jump in live chats with Savan and the rest of the tribe. New materials are available monthly along with guides and regimens. Subscribe today and save $25 off your first month membership. Links are in the descriptions. Subscribe to Secret Energy TV or this channel for future show notifications. Wholeness.
Every single unit that we join into, whether it's a small family, a tribe like this, the entire world, or your own personal body, that it actually works with all the pieces working together and functioning well. But the truth is that there's always something that is not functioning well. You break your toe, you're only feeling your toe, right? And so what about the rest of the body, the heart, the brain, everything else is functioning well, but the toe. And so the same thing with the family. You can have a couple cousins and, you know, they're just crashing into everybody and wreaking havoc on the entire thing. And then now look at the world. You know, we could have predominantly a really good world that wants to grow and doesn't want to basically get hurt all the time, get bombed on and blown up and this kind of thing. But this still goes on. And it's just a matter of tipping those balances right now and putting in the work. That's what we're actually here to do, because it is work. I love to play with the term funning, because I'm projecting. You know, I'm projecting. That's what I want it to become. And, you know, I don't want to talk about the work anymore because, you know, I even remember something my mom used to say. She used to say, all y'all know how to do is complain. She used to hit me with that. She goes, James, all y'all know how to do is complain. And I kind of heard that the other day in my mind because, you know, I was just listening to so many complaints from different people. And I'm like, man, these people really know how to complain really good. But when it comes to, you know, making it happen, it's like not available. And, you know, sometimes we could just you could see people get complacent in the complaining. And like that's going to solve some problems. But then meanwhile, the ones who are doing the work got to deal with the complaining and solve the problem. So it adds additional weight, because it's like, if you just smile or go and view something that's not able to function at the level that you are functioning, so that you can be a little bit more appreciative, like a person with no fingers or somebody that's lifting sulfur bags in mines in India. You know what I mean? But again, to each individual human, their experience is their own. So sometimes the sadness that we experience is akin to the guy walking out of the sulfur mine, or sometimes certain days he's more happy than, you know, what a person could be, you know, and being all caked up in America and having a nice job and car and all these different things, right? Because pain is relative. And so what I've started really doing is fortifying myself also, again, not to eliminate my emotions, but I have started using the pain to accelerate my growth, because sometimes I start noticing that I start slacking off when things are getting good, right? Like, it's like, okay, you know, everybody loves me, everything is happening. And then, you know, this is then not the time to desist. You know, this just means it's working, and you need to keep the cycle churning. I say, keep swimming, you know, because you're trying to break ground, like you're trying to break the surface. Like we're literally coming out of the netherworld, and we just like, if we could just break the surface, you know, so that's really what's happening, is that you're experiencing, you know, the flux of just having so much netherworld energy around. And, you know, and you're not only swimming to the surface, there's other stuff tethered to you, people you're trying to pull up, you know what I mean? And then somebody give up down there, and it's like, shit, that's too much weight. So all these things, like, just because of whatever is going on with any of us, it doesn't make us exempt from it. And that includes me. Like I go through these processes daily. And I try to, do the best with my consciousness, because I can also, Rahu is prone to depression, because it's all a mind. It's all, so if it's something wrong gets in your mind, the wrong comment, the wrong person said the wrong thing, it can wreck you. And a lot of people, they'll even tell you those one-liners like, you shouldn't let that bother you. Like that just turns it off. But the truth of the matter is that when we can see these energies, know that they're going to be present, like going to a tackle football game, you're going to get hit. So the reality is now, how can I benefit from this hit beside the paycheck? So it's basically like, because, that's sometimes what tends to keep people into even what they're doing, is just that they have to make money. They make money doing it. That's most of people's jobs. They don't got jobs they don't like to do. It doesn't necessarily stop just because you're working with consciousness. Maybe that's just sometimes another lie. Right. It's like, oh, I start working on helping people, then I'll be happy. It's like, no. That's like saying if I go to work at the hospital, then I'll never get sick. This is not really what we're talking about. So, thus one can begin to prepare themselves and gear themselves up properly for what they're going through in this experience. And so I find that we do need to, put some more emphasis in this. This is a small unit, so we only have so much time and energy to focus on specific things. But the external accoutrements are indeed important in the external reality, our garb, the things that we're wearing, the relics, the different energies that we have that are in alignment with us, that resonate with us, that we can bring into our space. This is another thing that, again, will assist us and empower us. And one of the things that I just wanted to pass to you is these incense, these tree resins. I had to go on Etsy the other day, and spend some time, because my tree resins is starting getting low. And, I had, a decent supply. I mean, you don't need to use a lot. Like you got $20 worth of tree resin on one tree resin may last the whole 6 months or a year, right? Because you don't need to use a lot. But what happened was, so I had this supply, and the supply after 2 years started running so low that I was basically down to some cheap frankincense. And to a point where I stopped burning it, because I didn't like that frankincense. It was just like the bottom of the barrel. But I got so busy, I just kept forgetting. And this, you fill this also with anything, meaning fill resins with anything that you already knew. This is what keeps me balanced in my environment. So for me, it's resins because they form a natural defense against bullshit. When it stinks, they kind of combat that, and they bring energies around, vibrations, frequencies that harmonize with that. So, some of these scents, they come from ancient times. And so there's still energies that they burning the good frankincense, they burning the good myrrh, or, the sandalwood, the Palo Santos, these kind of things. But, take your time, meaning that it's not always about buying that big giant pack for $5. It's about really also just saying, okay, I'm going to take my time to go and look for this to cause this effect. And so, because there's almost like, with everything, and I just want to give you another gem from me to you. With everything, like right now, for instance, we got to make the cosmic clocks. And, the cosmic clock is not, we can't say it's the most expensive watch in the world. There's always Rolexes and that kind of stuff, but it's also not the cheapest watch. It's not a Timex. But the amount that it costs, I end up having to put into every watch, no matter what it seems. From the process of milling the wood to the process of sanding or polishing the brass, from the process of assembling it to bending and curling and etching the amagi, and so much of it, it's just not acceptable. It's like at the end of the day, because that's also what could be disheartening, is that you spent like all this time on something and then you got to throw it away. Right? Like I deal with this shit and it's crazy. It's like, I just put almost 8 hours into this watch and there's a speck underneath the glass that I just don't feel comfortable with pushing it off to somebody. And I'm giving you an example here. But this kind of applies in so many other aspects of life. And so I have to remind myself, seven still, the laws of thermodynamics, I know they talk about fusion, but they still apply. And so there's a certain amount of energy that a person is going to give you for this watch. So there's a certain amount of energy that you're going to need to put in order to create this thing. You just need to, because everything is about staying balanced. Right. And so I just try to look at a lot of this stuff, from that level, like, this craft, because of course it does get easier as you refine your craft. That's another thing. Like as you refine your craft And, I want to put you onto this generative system flow because it'll allow you to increase your frequency. It's not just your frequency, like your vibration, but it's your frequency of impact. Like how many people know about what you're doing? How often are they getting informed? Because all those things take time, right? And there's this thing that about business, right? Because you say you have a wellness center. So you got to pay taxes maybe, or maybe it's a 501c3, but even that, it needs to be a tax form, right? So there's some business that actually needs to happen. And what happens is business, as I say, business is business, meaning that there's certain parts to running a business that can't be omitted. Just because you're conscious or whatever, it doesn't afford any of that, because it's like that's why the biggest business people are still in business, because there's a craft and trade to business, right? So a part of that is, is some of the things that I want to bring in with this generative part of things, is because it's also the touch points, like those people who you are coming in contact with, that you are impacting, to be able to actually leverage what it is that they can do for you to increase what you're doing. And also to make sure that you're not missing any point, because you say, oh, well, I got to go sit down and I got to write that up. Then I got to send it to them. So sometimes your system, that's what I feel like the 2023 has been about and is going to be about, is efficiency. Because when it's not fun anymore, at the end of the day, like if it rags too long in that direction, that was the reason why I got away from everybody in the first place. That was the reason why I became conscious in the first place, was to get rid of all of that. Now, if it's back again, it just means that somehow I've deterred myself back into that same vibration and that same energy under another guise. And so, again, like what I realize is that is that personal power. Like somebody said in the chat, it's like it is still our responsibility to keep it all put together, to make it make sense. This is another thing. Like there's a certain part of your consciousness that whatever you tell it, like, I've been instance of having to do some time. You go do a year in jail or something, right? How do you get that across in your mind if you're supposed to be so smart and intelligent and now you're in the worst place pretty much? It's like, so what do you tell yourself? You got to tell yourself, look, you make mistakes. Like, I don't know anybody around you that was free of making mistakes, but you happen to have to pay for yours. Everybody is going to pay for the decisions that they make. It's not like we're trying to doom everybody to hell or anything. It's just the system has to be designed so that way, whatever output you give, that there's an input and there's a response. And I think some of us are starting to feel like at times that it's unfair. It's like I'm putting in a lot, but I'm getting bullshit back. But then sometimes we got to check the pipeline though. It's like, well, how many years, hundreds of years maybe, have the ancestors kind of, and the family members even, especially when you see it in your family members, kind of not been working on the craft, haven't been working on the house, haven't been working on the tribe, haven't been working on the family, and now look at the condition. And then, of course, with a society that really wants to serve everything up on a platter, it gives everybody the idea that whatever society that they really want, that's just going to be served up on a platter for them. And then because it's not, then they have this ability to be upset, right? And this ability to expect more. Like one of my brothers, he just acts like everything owes him. It's just how he carries himself. It's a certain kind of energy. And so again, with these quantum things happening, you got to be in the zone, because you already know some folks already got wiped out. It's a wrap, this life. Like it's unrecoverable. It's like, you just got to know. It's like a person when you're on the battlefield and you're trying to keep a person alive. There's a point where they bleed out and you can't just still be there pumping on them. You got to basically allow that to empower you to live. It's another juxtaposition in the consciousness. Like when something crazy happens, it should push you more into doing what you already know is the solution to issues. So I want to finalize that thing about the incense. A barrier. So what happened so after a while, I stopped burning the incense. It wasn't a thing to me. I never asphyxiate on anything. So it's not like I'm trying to grab a ring out of the house when I leave, or, man, oh my goodness, I forgot my relic and I need to go back and all that. That's going too far. But at the end of the day, there are some things that just work. And when I'm creating a field around me, because I already know, like, I need to be shifting the energy that's coming in here. Right. And I don't need to be doing that with a conversation, because a conversation is like I need to hit you in the olfactory. I need to hit you in areas that you don't even know. That's why I said the masters can teach without really even talking, just using and aligning with the things that actually do allow those energies. Because when you do feel that way, the cry, right? So the cry, and this is that it gets crying. Crying is very healthy, but it is a crack in the aura. Like that the aura is bleeding in a certain tense, right? And we feel that pain. If we weren't empathic, we wouldn't feel any of this, right? So it's the agreement of opening up more in order to heal. But because we're open, then it allows even other things to infect the original wound, right? So it could get a little bit tricky. So this means in, like they would say, defense, right? So in certain levels of defense, it's like when certain things are trying to press into the field, when they hit that wall of resin, that pleasing smell, they can't enter into the space. It is literally like a light vibration, and they just like, I'm gonna wait till it smells like dog shit till I go over there. And this is kind of thing. Or if you leave it neutral, though, this is another thing. Though, if you leave it neutral, you'll be surprised, like different chemicals, like basically different kind of smells that they love and they feed on, right? And I don't want to make it like there's a whole realm of entities, even though there is. I'm just saying like does attract like. So then when you start feeling like, oh man, this is bullshit, then something will slip in the ear like, yep, it's all bullshit. Meaning that then you get all these energies that they basically resonate that they're losers. You see what I mean? We even trying to teach them how to win, but the reality is that they're already done. So that's the crab in the bucket thing. And the bucket is the netherworld, and the crabs are just like, yo, I give up, I lost, and they're just trying to pull the cat down. So then, it's sometimes about, again, it's enlisting. If you say, so what does the ancestors do about this? That's what the ancestors would be doing. That's why you don't walk in no temple or no church, which is really what you've created there. You don't walk in no temple and no church, and there ain't no incense around except for this fake Christian church. In this new Islam. Other than that, when you come in, they finna hit you with sheets of all this stuff that's going to keep certain energies and things. So that way you have that time in that moment to really go through your healing. And then when you go back and you're immersed in the reality as a person that have come and left the space, then you would feel the difference when that thing jumps back on you again. You know what I mean? Because you would have had that point of relief. And sometimes people say, they'll come in your space, they'll be like, man, it feels like you create a sacred space. You know what I mean? And it's just these dynamics of the vibratory frequencies are really what's necessary. So I'd advise getting armored up. Get you, I was just over here generating some stuff on some costumes of ages and just what people have to wear in their garb, but it's your tools. And then hit us up and support, and we'll fire off that ambassador wholesale list to you, just so you could check out what's available, and we'll keep climbing, and that's what it is. So just know, just the way that you're pulling folks up, somebody's gonna keep pulling you up too, and then somebody gonna pull them up, and that's how it's got to work anyway. Because that's all we got at the end of the day. Like anything else is just feel good stuff. But I would advise like taking a moment, getting a shield, especially if you got people coming in and out of the space, because the moment that you jump into that kind of fun, the light work, light fun, the moment that you jump into that, the energies it's like a hospital. Basically, it's like, the energy is like, yo, yeah, I need help. You know where that comes from, though? The same reason why we will want like a mother. You know how like a child can, or somebody would just go into baby mode on you, and they just like, because they need that energy. They didn't have that much anyway. And then now, they find that maybe they would be able to get it. And that's what I talked about before, about even in relationships, when two people need the same thing, and it's like there's nobody to get it from. So they just kind of like keep trying to get it from each other, and it creates a conflict, because a relationship truly is one person can offer something that the other person can't. So they kind of feed each other with that, right? So just again, in the metaphysical environment, you got to think about how many people that are coming in to try to get charged from the same energy that you have to sustain yourself with too. So you got to kind of make sure that there's even extra canisters and that you're full, right? And that's why, nature told me just specifically, you should probably get me to help, because I know how to deal with it. That's why they call it Mother Nature. So them trees, them elements, them resins, make sure that you're incorporating that in the space, because those are your real allies. These are not just inanimate things and just smells. They are actually beings in a whole space. And again, like I would explore more things besides sage. because sage is a trigger. Like when I walk into a space and sage is going, like I just go right into DMT days and ayahuasca. I go into a weird experience. It's like I even feel sacred. You know what I mean? And I just feel like we can't talk. Grandma just walked in the whole night. So I tell her, man, don't burn no sage around me right now. Like I'm not in the sage mood. I'm trying to party. But serious, it's like, okay, well, no, I'm not saying you can't use sage. I'm just saying that you don't, like if you're in your business, okay, I'm just saying, you remember a business is a business. There's certain things that businesses won't tolerate much of, but in a business, if you coming in, it's the 7-Eleven and the whole place smoked down with sage, you're getting fired. So I'm just saying, like, but if it's maybe something else, you know what I mean? Just consider the fragrances and things that actually can lighten up the environment and the reality and change the frequency.